So, and good job, Simon. We're recording.
And we're recording this. Just wanted to remind everyone that I will be dropping the slide deck into the chat box. So you have a point of reference as well.
Thanks, Simon. Okay, so welcome back, everybody. It's good to see you. I hope that you're having a relaxing and enjoyable summer. This summer, the LRC has decided to leave you guys alone. Last summer was intense and busy. This summer, we thought, let's take a little break. But now we're slowly starting to ramp back up. And in fact, we're going to reach out to you again in a few days. We're thinking that it might be a good idea to have some kind of workshop or event before the start of the semester, just to talk about, getting back into the classroom and some of the issues that we might face. But we definitely want to wait until at least after Tuesday, when I think we're going to get a bit more clarification on exactly how we're supposed to interact with students in the classroom. Okay, so the main topic of today is the Language Resource Fair. I wanted to put the date and time up very prominently. It will take place on August 31st, which is a Tuesday, from 3 to 5 p.m. So if you have not written that down yet, this is a good opportunity to put it in your calendar. That is our 2-hour block for interacting with students, answering questions they may have, and talking about our languages. The approach that the college is taking this year is, first of all, that it's going to be a virtual fair. So just like last year, when we were using the language portal and Zoom, we're going to do the same thing this year. We're going to repeat more or less what we did last year. So I'll kind of go through what that will look like for you and for students. But the basic idea is that it's virtual this year. And that's what the college decided they wanted to do, and that's what we'll do. Differently from last year, however, we are going to combine the Academic Resource Fair and the Language Resource Fair, or I should say, not so much combine as hold them at the same time. So it's going to be 2 events that are happening at the same time. And students will be able to shuttle between these 2 events. And I'll talk a little bit about how we can facilitate that movement back and forth of students in between the Academic Resource Fair and the Language Resource Fair. And the idea behind this is we observed that last year there was not a huge amount of attendance by students at the Language Resource Fair. And one of the reasons that we think that was because it was not a required event. Of course, the Academic Resource Fair is a required event. And so by piggybacking on the Academic Resource Fair, we think that we'll have greater turnout of students. And also, it will more closely resemble what we've done before COVID, where we have the Language Resource Fair and the Academic Resource Fair at the same time. So that is the plan for this year. They're virtual concurrent. In order to facilitate students getting to the right place at the right time, we recommend that you get in touch with the person who represents your language or department at the Academic Resource Fair. And this is going to be different in each department. It could be the DUS who's doing this. It could be a professor who's doing this. We don't really know. If you don't know, you might want to get in touch with your department administrator, who probably knows the answer to this question. But what we suggest doing is to establish a plan with this person and say something like, during the Academic Resource Fair, if a student comes with a lot of questions about languages, could you please send that student to the language portal page of our language? By the same token, if a student comes to me, the language instructor, with questions about majors or classes, literature classes or whatever, then I'll send them to you at the Academic Resource Fair. So you can kind of have this reciprocity. So that is our recommendation, that you get in touch with the person who will be at the Academic Resource Fair from your department. Any questions on that point? Okay. Any questions about the format of the Language Resource Fair this year? Okay, so let me talk a little bit about what it's going to look like for a student to move through this experience. I'll stop sharing for 1 second and switch my browser window. What they're going to do is they will receive information from the college about the time and where to go. They'll have a link to the Columbia Language Portal, which is what we used last year. And I will again share my screen with you. So students will end up on this page where they will see the beautiful work that you all did last year in building up the language portal. And they'll be able to scroll through the different languages. And when they get to one that they want to learn more about, say, for example, Indonesian, they'll click on it and go to the page. And here they can read a bit more about the language, perhaps more about some of the classes that are being offered in that particular semester. They'll see the language contact with their email address. And then in this area where the language contact is, they will also see a link to the Zoom meeting where they can connect with you and speak to you about any questions that they might have. And this link will become live just a few minutes before the language resource fair starts. So that's basically what they're going to do. And then they can go back to languages and look at some other languages. But this will be their landing page, if you will. And within this landing page, they'll be able to access your specific language page. Now, what we are hoping is that we can take this as an opportunity to build up this resource a little bit more. A lot of these pages, they kind of answer the question of, yes, I can take Indonesian. It is available. And that's a good thing. But we might want to add something a little bit more to the effect of why they want to take that language. What does taking this language do for them? Where does this lead? What are the advantages of taking this particular language? So we invite you to take a look at your own languages page and think about ways in which your page may better answer the question of why. And we're doing this, of course, as part of an ongoing effort to increase enrollments in languages, increase the visibility and prominence of languages at Columbia College. So we're happy to speak with you about strategizing about this or looking at other ways of doing it. You can also look at the other languages and see what other people have done to kind of get some ideas. We have about 50 languages here, and there's a lot of different takes on what an individual language page can be. So yeah, that is what we recommend doing. So one important step in this process is going to be the Zoom meeting, and that's the most important thing for us to do right now. So I'll turn it over to Simon, who's going to talk about scheduling the Zoom meeting and also some of the specifics, like when we need the link by and other Zoom issues. So Simon, over to you, unless of course there are any questions about what I've said so far.
Give them a few minutes or maybe a few seconds. See if there's anything. Okay, it looks like it is safe for me to take this over. So I'm going to share my screen with everyone, and everyone should hear me and see me just fine. So in this portion of the presentation, we will largely revisit how to set up a Zoom meeting, how to create a link, and how to forward it to us so that we can then send it over to college. I believe the deadline is August 16th. But we will talk about it later. So let me move over to the Zoom control panel at Columbia University.zoom.us. Upon logging in, let me just maybe walk you through the process. So this is what we see when we log into the page. And again, this will be largely a review for everyone. However, some of the things have changed since we met last year to discuss the fair. So we figured that we should just refresh it.
Simon,
okay. Yes.
Simon, could you make your fonts a little bit larger?
Sure. Is this good?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Okay. So by default, we are in the meetings tab, from where we will go ahead and schedule a meeting by clicking on this button right here. And from the top of the menu, we will basically go through the steps. The topic could be language resource fair. I will use an abbreviation here. If you'd like, you can insert or you can enter the description. It is not required. You may set the date. For us, it's going to be August 31st. The fair starts at 3 p.m. Zoom allows you to schedule things in 30-minute increments. So perhaps let's have it start at 2:30 p.m. And the fair is scheduled to last 2 hours. So just to be safe, we can enter 3 hours. I mean, this doesn't really have much of a bearing on the actual meeting, since we can end it whenever we feel like it. The time zone stays the way it is. We will not require the registration. However, we will want to have an automatically generated meeting ID for this particular meeting for the language resource fair. And as for the security, in the past, and by the past, I mean last year, no security measures were required. Again, things have changed a little bit over the last year. Now, if we disable the passcode, which is set by default, we get a message saying that at least one security option needs to be entered. So with that in mind, let us maybe leave the passcode here. This will be automatically generated and baked into the meeting link that the system will generate for you. So if you want, you can write it down, but it will not be necessary for the prospective students to come into the meeting. Going down, we will leave the host video on or off. That is up to your preference. And we may want to leave the participant video on upon login. For audio, we will set both. And we may want to mute the participants upon entry. And that is pretty much it. With all these functions, all these options enabled, we want to save the meeting. And just like that, it is saved, it is scheduled, it is generated. Now, what we at the LRC will need from you guys when you schedule the meeting is this link right here, which you can just, highlight like this, right click, copy, and paste it into the email. Or if you are in real time following this presentation, you can also just paste it into the chat. If you're pasting it into the chat right now, make sure that you tell us where or who this is coming from. So that's about it when it comes to the meeting scheduling. Again, it is just a review of what we are all pretty proficient with and pretty used to by now. One thing that I wanted to point out to you that has been brought to our attention a few times is the ability to share files. Depending on what it is that you plan to use during these meetings with your students to entice them to take the course or to maybe to answer their questions, you may want to share files with them. And to that end, you want to make sure that that feature, that option is enabled for you in the first place. So to do that, you want to go to the settings, and under the in meeting parentheses basic tab, you want to find this option right here, send files via meeting chat. For me, it is enabled. For some of you, it may be disabled, like so. If that is its state, just go ahead and toggle it on for you. Okay, and that should take care of that should take care of that.
Simon, can I interject very quickly?
Yeah.
The one thing that I just wanted to echo from what Simon was saying is that this is basically what we did last year with one big difference, which is that Zoom at Columbia now requires this extra layer of security. It has to either be a passcode or a waiting room. We suggest the passcode because that allows you to create a link with the passcode already baked in, as Simon said. And if you send that to us, then we put it up on the website. Students will just click that and they'll be in the meeting. There's no extra step. So that's what we recommend. If you prefer the waiting room for whatever reason, that's fine, but you'll have to manage it during the meeting. So we recommend the passcode. Waiting room is okay as well. Just wanted to make that clear. It's the same thing as last year. We just have this extra step.
Great, thank you, Chris. That concludes the scheduling meeting setup portion of our session today. At this point, do we have any questions or comments? Is there anything that I should perhaps go over one more time? As Chris said, this is pretty important, so we should all be on the same page. Okay. Utah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we were thinking of just having one Zoom link for both the academic fair and the language resource fair. I think for larger departments, that might be an issue, but we're just going to use breakout rooms, I think, and then just guide the people to where they want to talk. And we have one person, if needed, to manage, you know, the flow of the breakout rooms. I just wanted to put it out there. Is that okay?
Yeah, you know, I think each department has its own culture. I can imagine other departments where there's not that collaborative, you know, way of doing things, or other departments that are bigger and would have trouble managing it. But if that's what you want to do and that's how you establish it with your partners on the other side, that's perfectly fine. We just need a place for students to go. It doesn't really matter the specifics. Jose Antonio.
That last part that Simon was talking about, I got distracted and so I didn't get it.
You mean file exchange?
Yes.
Okay, let me go back then. So once the meeting has been set and scheduled, we want to make sure that we can trade files, if you will, with our students. If that is something that we plan on doing, of course. And that feature is not automatically by default enabled in Zoom. We kind of sometimes need to enable it ourselves. And to do that, we go to settings. From settings, we go to in meeting basic. And we scroll down just a little bit to this section where it says send files via meeting chat. Okay. There's a little toggle next to it. We want to make sure that it's set in blue.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Yes, once we set up the Zoom meeting link, should we send to the Language Resource Center and Megan separately, right? Megan Fryer, the school representative.
Yeah, that's a good question. In fact,
Okay.
we just had an exchange with Ariella Lang this morning about that. I think it'd be easiest for you, if this is just for the language resource fair, for you to send it to us. When we receive them, we're going to send them to Megan as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think it'd be easier to collect them all and then send them all as a group, as opposed to one by one.
Okay. Thank
It'd
you.
also be easier for the college to
Yeah.
just one compiled list of everything as opposed to various emails.
Mm-hmm.
So we will do it for you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Lee had his hand up, Lee Abraham.
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope the summer's going as well as can be expected under the circumstances. Thank you to Simon and Team LRC and Chris for organizing this. I had a question to kind of piggyback on Utah. If colleagues wanted to have their own Zoom link in addition to the one for the general one, would that also be possible? In other words, we have courses that are LSP language for specific purposes. If instead of the breakout room from the one general link, for whatever reason, a colleague wanted their own to create a Zoom link for their own session, would that also be an option on the portal page?
Sure. I mean, as many as you want. You know, the way it's going to work is students will be on their language, on your specific page in the language portal. They'll click on the Zoom button, and that will take them to a list of Zoom meetings, and they'll select from that list which one they want.
Okay.
So they can, you know, we'll be able to put that in, no problem.
Okay,
So if
so
you have
that's-
more than one, no problem.
Okay, so that's similar to last year where they clicked on and then there was a possibility of saying, if you want to talk with this instructor of this particular course, here's the Zoom. Okay, great. I wasn't sure. Okay, great, perfect. They may very well want to go along the lines of creating one link and then separate breakout rooms. But before I offer the option of having their own Zoom link, I wanted to know what the options were from the perspective of Team LRC. Thank you very much.
Surely. You only one?
Okay, I think my question is related to Professor Sue's. In the Chinese program, we have decided to create two groups. So one group will work with the ELAC department, creating a separate Zoom link, and another group would work with LRC, having another Zoom link. That works too, right? So we're gonna send to Megan a Zoom link address, and then send to you guys a different Zoom link, because we basically are dividing our program staff into two groups, one to work with my department and the other with LRC. That's okay, right? Okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. So just to tell you a bit what we're doing on our side. So we'll receive your Zoom link
Yes.
and we'll put it on the language portal.
Yes.
But we'll also send that Zoom link for the language fair to the college so they
Okay.
can put it up too. The
Oh.
idea is that students have multiple entryways into
Oh.
your Zoom meeting, just to, you know, make sure students, as many students see it as possible.
Okay, great. Number two, is it okay for me to just drop by in person, visiting you guys in the office? Should I have any technical questions?
Yeah, fine by me. We're here a lot, but not all the time. So if you want to do
Okay.
that, you know, send us an email just to make sure that we're in the office.
We'll probably be in.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Those are very good questions. With our answers in mind, let's move ahead. So a few important takeaway points. The Zoom links will be due on Monday, August 16th. So that leaves us more or less 6 days to generate your links. As you have seen, it doesn't really take very long. So we think that it offers you enough of time. Once generated, please forward everything to lrc@columbia.edu as soon as you can. We will set aside a little bit of time at the end of this session to generate some links if you would like to just get it out of the way today. What is important is to keep in mind that once you have produced a link, do not change it. Once you've changed it, it is not going to work. So, you know, the way you've done it the first time, that is how we will pass it on to the college, unless unless there are emergent situations. And then, as I've mentioned before, set your starting time to 2:30 p.m. That will give us some time to attend to any questions or technical problems if there may be any. There are two things in the chat. Keep safe. You too, Dujin. Thanks. Okay.
I wanted to quickly chime in as well. You may have received messages from us saying that the Zoom link is due actually a bit later.
Mhm.
We received a message today from the college saying that they want them by the 16th. So now it's due the 16th and not any other time. Sorry about that.
To us.
But still, you have 6 days to make a Zoom link. I think we can do it.
You got this. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to quickly talk about is just general logistics of having and hosting a Zoom meeting. Again, hopefully a review for a lot of us, for most of us. The first point that I wanted to make sure that we were all aware of is that the chat is appropriately or correctly configured. I can't really show you on screen in real time how to do this because of how Zoom works. So we took a bunch of screenshots. What essentially you would need to do is go to the chat button, and then that will open up the chat window where in the bottom right-hand corner, you will see this frame, this container. There are these 3 dots symbol right there that you will click on and then enable that, and then enable the host and the co-host option for your participants to chat with. That will allow you to, and your students as well, to streamline the conversations and to ensure that whatever questions, comments, things they may want to be sharing with you are being put in the chat, that you receive all of it. Okay. In case there are a lot of people, hopefully things, go missing. That way you should be able to keep record of everything and retrieve these things if needed. Another important thing is making sure that that you have the right background behind you. This, I don't think, requires further elaboration. Most of us should have the kind of computers that allow us to set virtual backgrounds, in which case what we want to do is in the bottom left-hand corner this time, I want to click on the video button. And next to it, there's this little arrow next to the camera icon. There's a little arrow here that will open up a pop-up menu from where we will choose the virtual background, and that will open up another window where we can enable a virtual background. Now, as far as the background is concerned, what I will do, maybe I will, oh, somebody just joined us. Let me admit this person. So I'm going to choose a virtual background now. And I have prepared an image, which I will here we go. Okay, and just like that, I have a different background behind me. This is the city of Chicago, but it doesn't have to be a city of Chicago. A suggestion that may be handy and may be useful in the context of the resource of the language resource there is perhaps putting your contact information on the background for your students, for visitors to have easy access to, email, office phone number if you use it, things like that. For those of us who do not have the kind of computers that allow for virtual backgrounds, there's really no easy fix to that. Just kind of choose the spot that is most suitable for this event, for creating this first impression on your student with your students. Make sure that the lighting is good, that you are sitting in the right angle. Those are some of the things that we covered in the previous semester during one of the workshops that is also available online. As soon as I'm done with my portion, I will post a link in the chat to it so that you guys can review it one more time. And then moving forward, we have, last but not least, screen sharing feature. Which is what I'm doing right now. You will notice that for the purpose of this workshop, or the presentation, I have a bunch of tabs that I have open here that I toggle between. It is a good idea to have that available for the fair as well. Of course, depending on the kind of resources that you plan to share with your students. Now, in terms of the students themselves, we've covered how to share files. You should already be familiar with muting and unmuting your participants. When setting up the meeting, we enable mute everyone option. So by default, the students who are coming in will be silent. And as far as the chat itself goes, and try to encourage your students to leave their contact information in the chat. That way, at the end of the meeting, at the end of the workshop, you can go back to the chat, you can download it, and have their contact information available for your reference so that you can follow up with them later. And speaking of things that will be happening after the meeting, let's really quickly review how to retrieve and save your chat transcript. So you will notice that at the bottom of the Zoom window, there's a chat button. Again, if we click it, the chat panel opens to the right, from where we will want to click on the 3 dots icon, the ellipsis here. And if there is any content in the chat, this top option here will be active. Mine, the screenshot that I took was is grayed out, but normally it should be active. You click here, save the chat transcript locally in the location where you want, and that's it. It is that seamless. And like I said,
Simon, why might you want to do that?
Oh, like I mentioned, you should do that so that you have questions that your students may have asked you throughout the event. Also, contact information, something to use to follow up with your students after the fair.
I remember last year, a lot of students would just sign in on the chat and say, can you add me to the mailing list of the department or whatever. So it's a good place to record it.
Okay. And that would be all when it comes to the logistics of Zoom. Chris, would you like to talk about how to present your program, your language on the website?
Sure.
I will stop sharing.
So last year, we built up the language portal page. This is, I would say, our first draft of it. And as I mentioned earlier, this is an opportunity, or we have an opportunity now to add to it and build it up a bit. So yeah, I don't have too much to say on this point. Just that if you want to change your page or add to it or put in new things, I'm going to pick on Veni and click on Dutch. You want a different picture, that's fine. If you want more content, that's fine. Our one suggestion that I wanted to share in saying this is it's probably a good idea to put up content that would be considered evergreen, in the sense that it's not semester or year specific, but it kind of works for all times. So as you look at your page and think about new things you might put there, think about what you could put up that will sort of always be, fresh and won't be saying, won't be last semester's flyer. So that's basically all I'll say about that. But yeah, if you want to add to your page, get in touch with us. We're happy to make changes.
Sounds like a fire alarm. Okay, should we stop?
No, let's just ignore the fire alarm.
Okay, let's ignore the fire alarm and keep going. So let me share the screen again. Oh, this is going to be great.
Everyone to our instructional innovation workshop.
And now I'm going to mute everyone too.
Are back on schedule at spring break and a brief interlude associated with a invited guest talk. Today we'll be talking about fundamentals of videography, and by fundamentals, I mean.
Okay. So everyone is muted now. Now I can share the screen.
You know, as I think about it, maybe Simon and I probably should leave the LRC if there actually is a fire. But I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover. If you have any questions, send us an email, lrc@columbia.edu. We're going to make a recording available to you of this workshop if you want to go back and see anything. And yeah, Simon, is there anything else that you think we should
Yes,
cover?
I wanted to share with everyone a checklist that we made for the language fair. This covers some of the things that we didn't get a chance to cover today, and summarizes some of the other things that we did discuss today. So it's in the chat for everyone. Go ahead and download it. And yeah, let's run for our lives.
Sorry about the sudden ending. I'm glad it happened now and not at the beginning.
Thank you very much, and stay safe, guys. Yeah.
Okay.
Run.
Bye.
Stay safe, everyone. Be careful out there. Great
See
to
ya.
see everybody. Take care now.
Great to see
Bye.
you too.
Take care.
Bye.